Rebecca Dawson. Thanks for joining me. February 2020, already off to a very interesting start for many of us who are feeling the heaviness, the fatigue, particularly in the lower body. Still issues moving in and out with vision between macroscopic and microscopic views. Lots of interesting things happening in our nervous system. Well, one of the things I really want to speak about today, which I think is so important for us moving forward into 2020, is a concept that's been emerging quite a lot in the private individual sessions I've been hosting in the last few weeks, but it's also coming up in this month's webinar series quite strongly, our series, The Voice Within. And this is this concept about humility. Now, as channelers and intuitives and healers and teachers and people who are conscious and wanting to do the best that we can in this reality, not only for ourselves but for others, there has always been a traditional view that there is the divine and then that there is us, that there is a higher consciousness that we can be and then there is us. And I'm taking the very bold step of moving forward, and this has been incremental for me in the last few years, but I'm being very explicit about it now, that it's really come to a point in our own experience and our own experience of consciousness that it's no longer helpful to us as humans, no longer helpful to us as sovereign beings to continue to defer where wisdom comes from, where knowing comes from, and to still relate that to a source that's external to ourselves. So I'm putting myself up and center as being represented as a channeler in that form and that identity, that I'm being very explicit that I believe that we have multiple aspects of ourselves, all born from source, that come through us, that are accessible, because all aspects are from source consciousness, the God within, divine, the cosmos, whatever you want to call it. So when I have really interesting in-depth conversations with other brilliant humans on this planet who indeed themselves are very in tune with knowledge that comes from within, deep within the cosmos within, deep within their divine, that there's still this deferring that happens. There's still it was my higher consciousness speaking, or it was this particular master speaking, or it was another aspect of myself, or a being from another galactic dimension. Now, we know that everything is of source, otherwise we are deeply embedded in separation. And even those of us that are conscious enough to know that we are multi-dimensional beings and that the human itself is divine, we are that, there's still a deferral that happens in how we identify the information and the knowledge and the wisdom, the love, the compassion that we express. There's still a tendency for us to say, well, that was me and my higher self, and this was me and my ego. What I want to express today is that to really move ourselves into our divine sovereignty is so important to really begin to own who and what we are as multidimensional beings. And so I'm challenging myself as I'm challenging anyone that's listening to this in this moment to begin to really take ownership of what is being expressed through you. To begin to say, this is emerging from me, from the divine within at this space. To discontinue deferring to a perceived separate sense of self, a perceived separate sense of source. I also want to talk about how humility, and perhaps a false sense of humility that we've had throughout our spiritual context, throughout all of our religious learnings that have been about, well, this is coming from a source of wisdom that's higher than me, more conscious than me, that's better than me, that's more learned than me, that's clearer than me. I couldn't possibly be me. This couldn't possibly be coming from me as the individual self. For example, me as Rebecca. And yet, it's so important now that we begin to claim these multidimensional aspects of ourselves, that we begin to be able to say, well, this is another point of view that's being expressed from within me. And so I really am encouraging all of you and myself, us as humanity, to begin to actually reclaim the I within, reclaim source consciousness as yours. If it's coming from you, it's an aspect of you. If it's coming deep from within you, if you're expressing it, if you're glimpsing it, if you're knowing it, if you're sensing it, It's so important now to claim that in your sovereignty, because how else is humanity really going to step into this knowing of its multidimensional capacity, its knowing as an expression point for Source, God, cosmic consciousness itself. So this is my message for this month, 2020, February. This time for us to really begin to claim all of what we are. If we can't claim it for ourselves, how can we expect humanity to begin to claim the truth about who we are, what our capacity is, and how we actually express ourselves in this world? Please, I encourage you all, if it's coming from you, if you're expressing it, claim it. Even if it's that aspect of you that you don't enjoy, even if it's a part of you you believe to be your ego, that's another facet on the diamond, another point on the star within. Important, important times for us. Thanks for listening. I hope that this has ignited something within you. I look forward to continuing to share my experience with you as we move throughout the year.